Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be, and welcome to the Political Blowback podcast with myself, Steve Kostick. And I am so glad that you could join us. I hope you can sit for a spell and we can share some thoughts. The first question I would like to ask. This morning, I watched Prime Minister from Canada, Mark Carney, visit the White House and sat in the Oval Office, and there were some lamentations that followed, primarily by Donald Trump. But what I'd like to do is I'd like to unpack the dynamics of this visit, because I think the dynamics were the most interesting portion of this meeting. First of all, almost the entire breadth of this press conference that took place in the Oval Office, Donald Trump, for the most part, rambled on incessantly. Mr. Carney was the statesman and pretty much made it clear in two paragraphs, because I think that's all he was given, was two paragraphs to actually say something. The rest of it was Donald Trump rambling incessantly. It sounded to me, for the most part, like Donald Trump said one sentence without a period, because he would just meander and ramble and change the subject. Every 7 seconds there was a different and it just kept coming out of him and coming out of him and coming out of him. You know, I got to the point listening to him talk where I said to myself, you know, if you asked him point blank the question, what comes after a sentence, in all likelihood he would say an appeal. Because there were no periods. He just went on and on and on. Again, let's look at the dynamics. In my view, nothing happens with Donald Trump by accident. He's no dummy. He's a very clever person. I think if he's gone bankrupt 6 times, that could tell you a little bit about how much acumen he actually has. But he is he's a very clever person. And he does do things very purposefully. If I hearken back to what happened in the White House with President Zelensky from Ukraine, that was an exceedingly embarrassing moment for Mr. Zelensky, but even more so for Mr. Trump and Mr. Vance. Because they took an office and they took an institution that was known for respect and for statesmanship and turned it into a dog and pony show. So, in as much as he thought he was embarrassing Mr. Zelensky, he was embarrassing himself. That was the point of embarrassment. Now, with Mr. Carney, I don't think it was an accident that Donald Trump rambled incessantly as he did. I think his goal and purpose was to make Mr. Carney look subservient, perhaps unimportant, simply by stealing the narrative. Having said that, Mr. Carney said 2 paragraphs, but he said what needed to be said. Canada is not for sale, and it will never be the 51st state. And then he went, in another paragraph, he went on to reference some aspect of trade negotiations. I think this was not a good look for Donald Trump at all. I think he really embarrassed the United States once again. He embarrassed the American people. by not having a degree of statesmanship. If I had one criticism of Mr. Carney, it would be this. He was exceptionally, and for a moment, he was exceptionally complimentary to Donald Trump. And I think that was sort of the equivalent of blowing honey up his butt. And it really wasn't necessary. I think Mr. Carney may have been ill-advised to go into this meeting and thinking that he's going to blow that honey up his butt and turn him into someone who is very, very friendly. Donald Trump tried to make it sound like he was very complimentary to Mr. Carney, very complimentary to Canada. They're my friends in Canada. I love Canada, yada, 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 yada. And as far as not needing anything from Canada, nothing could be further from the truth, because we have an enormous supply of fresh water. And we have the kind of oil that's required to service the refineries in the United States. They don't even have the kind of oil. They're drilling this oil and they're selling a lot of it to other countries. So the truth is we are a lot more needed than he lets on. The unfortunate part is that the American people, some of them, believe it. He said, we don't need them for anything. This is what I call a cocoonist approach economically, and it does not end well. Protectionist policies over history have always proven to be detrimental to a country. Donald Trump at the helm is no exception. This is going to lead to a lot of hardship. And remember, in my previous video, I made it very clear. I went out on a limb and I said we are going to start seeing supply chain shortages, and we're going to start seeing inflation, and we're going to start to see the fallout of these policies. And Donald Trump wants to make it look like, they're coming to me and they're begging me for a deal, and they're saying, may I touch the hem of your garment so that some of your righteousness will flow through you and redeem us as a nation. And nothing could be further from the truth. Countries right now are saying, yeah, you want to shoot yourself in the foot? We'll take our sweet old time. And so that's the politics of illusion. One of the big takeaways of what Donald Trump said today is he referenced Gavin Newsom, the governor of California. And if my memory serves me correct, he said he called him a friend and someone that he liked. And in the same conversation and in the same breath, he addressed him as Governor Gavin Newscomb. Governor Gavin Newscomb. Unbelievable. What a double standard. I think if anybody would look at that and say and try to rationalize it, they've got to put themselves in a position where they say, is he like totally disingenuous? Can you believe anything he says? That's a legitimate question, because he's contradicting himself right in the same conversation, in front of the same camera, in front of the same White House. I think that gives people a lot to think about, and I hope I gave you a lot to think about as well. Have yourself a great day. Cheers. And don't forget to like and subscribe. We need that. Thanks.